Well, things are different for us now, right now, for all of us, priests included for sure. Here we are in the Triduum weekend, and we're navigating through something we've never seen before, and it's quite an adjustment. I think as a priest of all of you out there, certainly John and I have been talking about how we miss the people, their faces, and being able to talk to you directly. And right now we can only do communication by phone and Zoom and FaceTime, Skype, all that stuff. We're all learning that technology. And I guess this weekend for me has, this Holy Week and this Triduum weekend has been for me I'm trying to make it an opportunity to sit still with God, and think in another way, a deeper way, about individual people in my life, about my parishioners, about where I am in life right now, and go deeper into what really this time is about, in terms of our faith, in terms of our Christian faith, in terms of our call to renewal, our call to celebrate the resurrection. And certainly is pause for thought as to we're doing things differently, and there's a call to renewal in probably a global way. And it'll be interesting to see, as Pope Francis points out recently in a letter. He speaks of we can't go back to the way things were. During this pandemic, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for spiritual growth, and that's the way God works. And so we see it through in the best way each of us can. And we can speculate all we want about how long this will go on, or how things will get back to normal, whatever that will mean, at whatever time that'll be. But it's not for us to try to figure that all out. And so, in some ways that's calming, because it allows me to focus on the here and now, and to just do what I can do, and to say, Lord, this is where I'm at, this is where we're at, this is where the world is at, and how are you calling me? What do you, rather than figure out what it all means, try to be the best person I can be, and to use it as an opportunity to revise the way I do things, the way all of us can look at in a new way at the way we do things. And the world will be different. Certainly systems and structures will change. We'll all be better cooks for sure. I'm learning a few more recipes. I'm very conscious of that, and also the other ways in which all of us can tackle life in a new way, and get to know ourselves, get to know each other, beyond the meetings, beyond all the other things, and maybe we take a new step in our prayer life. And certainly you've had more time for that. So that's been a blessing. So those are kind of my thoughts right now. So I look forward to the time where we can meet in person, all of our parishioners, and be together physically and smile at each other. It's something that certainly we all miss.
As I looked upon a vacant parking lot this morning and viewed a lot of empty pews in the church today, my thoughts kind of filtered back to one of the Psalms of the Old Testament, Psalm 137. Which reads, "By the rivers of Babylon, we sat down and wept when we remembered Zion. on the willows there, we hung up our harps. How could we sing the Lord's song in a foreign land? That song might be familiar to those of us who remember the musical Godspell, and also popularized by the music group Boney M a number of years ago. And it reflects the lament of the Jewish people after 70 years of exile in the city-state of Babylon, and their yearning to return to their home. And I think I and a lot of people, most people, have that same yearning because we feel we're in a foreign land. We're kind of in exile right now. We're exiled from our jobs and our employment, exiled from our schools and our places of learning. We're certainly exiled from gathering to celebrate Holy Week and Easter in a way that we're accustomed to. And I think that on a morning like this, we are used to seeing churches that are overflowing, parking lots that cannot contain all of the cars, and life in general coming to the fore in the spring. But now we have to make other adjustments. And especially at Easter time, when we're used to gathering with families and extended families and friends, socializing, we can't do that. We're truly a people who are in a kind of an exile. And like the Jewish people who yearn to return to their own land of Israel to worship in the temple in Jerusalem, so many yearn to be here to celebrate with us Christ's resurrection. And maybe right now we feel like we're kind of like the women walking towards the tomb before daybreak in the dark, wondering who will roll the stone away. Indeed, who will roll the stone away of this pandemic from us, and when will that happen? Well, we know it will happen. As the women reached the tomb, they were surprised to see, indeed, that the barrier, the stone, had been rolled away. We need to see the stone rolled away as well. We need to see the barriers that have kept us apart being rolled back, so that we can assume our lives as we were before, but not quite as they were before. Maybe we'll see the resurrected Christ in one another as being more generous, more giving, more loving. And maybe this Easter will be unique in our lifetime in recognizing that Christ. So we come as a people, yes, in the darkness before dawn, before we actually see the tomb or the stone blocking the tomb rolled away. We see it as an opportunity for us to reconsider our lives and to recognize how Christ has risen among us in new and more beautiful ways than ever. And so as our brothers and sisters in the Eastern Church would greet each other on Easter morning with the salutation, Christ is risen, and we respond, yes, for he is risen indeed. And may all of us experience that risen Christ in a new and unique way this Easter. God bless you, one and all.
So, John, big empty church at Easter time.
Yeah, it's very different. But as you were saying, I guess it gives us all the time to be a little bit more reflective, more introspective, I guess, if you will. We certainly having the luxury of being able to watch the Easter celebrations in the cathedral live streamed by Bishop Don. And so technology has kind of helped us out somewhat.
Yeah, it has.
Yeah.
Yeah, the watching the Bishop Don at the cathedral and through this time, I guess it does have a unifying effect in the sense that we're all hearing from our bishop and we're all tuned in. It's interesting to know that so many people are viewing, and that brings us together in a way that we don't often see, certainly. But that being said, I certainly, as a priest, to not be with people in large numbers to celebrate Easter is very different. And it's different. There's something missing. But again, it's a matter of looking at it's a different way, and life is about change, and life isn't about what we're used to or comfortable with all the time. So I was really challenged by that. I had to look at it from that perspective.
Well, it's certainly helped me to learn a lot more about technological ways of communicating that I didn't know before. So I guess that's kind of a plus factor. Yesterday at the streaming of the Good Friday service, when people normally come forward to embrace the cross, kiss the cross, I had a little crucifix that was formed and shaped, and maybe a lot of people have these kind of crucifixes that you kind of hold, and it's formed in the shape of your hand. And I guess at the time when the adoration of the cross came, I took that down from a bookshelf, and I kind of grasped onto it as a way of kind of grasping onto something of the cross and the sufferings of Christ, and those who are suffering from the pandemic virus, people in hospitals, people who are in ventilation wards, and so on. And I guess I tried to grab onto that cross, thinking of them and praying for them as well. So it was kind of a unique experience, I guess, from the usual way in which we venerate the cross.
Yeah, well, again, we're all looking for ways to adapt, and certainly exercises our imagination and our creative approach, as individuals. And I think it's a mixed thing. We're missing the community, but we're also challenged to look within ourselves and what does this all mean to me? Like how can I participate in this in a different way rather than just doing what everybody else is doing? And we can go into autopilot pretty quickly. So it's always a mixed thing. There's our individual, our personal relationship, with God, with ourselves, with the world, and there's the celebration as a community. So it's a challenging time, and it's interesting that that your approach with the cross, and others certainly heard, people gathering the different crosses from their household and putting them all together, and just providing some focus. And it's it reminds us that each of us has our own way of praying too. God knows our language, and it's good to know that. And
I think too, when we finally wade through this exile, as I said, and we can reopen the doors of the church, not only from the outside, but especially opening them up from the inside, we see that sign on the door that says you are now entering the mission field, that all of us will have a greater understanding of what that means. Yes, we have our places in our churches where we come and pray together and worship, but maybe it will help us to acknowledge that our everyday work of evangelizing and living our faith is done out in the places and spaces where we live, where we work, where we go to school, in our communities. And perhaps maybe this Easter will bring us to a newer and deeper understanding of what that means. So I guess as we look forward to reopening the doors, both the doors allow us to come in and worship, and those that challenge us to go out into the community to live our Christian faith and to serve others as Christ did. I think maybe this Easter will be perhaps a very, very unique one for all of us.
Very unique, and there's some added things we need to remember through this is the self-distancing, and I think I only touched my face a couple of times during this video.
And I guess we look forward to long to see these pews that are now empty filled once again as we celebrate Eucharist together, as we celebrate our faith together. Brad, don't you think a lot of those people in the congregation looked awfully familiar?
Too familiar.
I only have one brother, but my gosh, I think there's a few more that maybe are unaccounted for.
I think we're just spending too much time alone. Starting to see things.
Yeah.
Look at the floor.
Oh my gosh.